Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the platform Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Jasmine Harden, and I'm here to create a space for Black minds, voices, and culture to thrive. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get into this episode. All right, we're back here on the platform Let's Talk About It, and I have the two most special guests in the world to me. That is my sister and my mom. I'm going to play some applause. Clap it up for them. Tashi, Mom, do you guys want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, I am Tashi, Jasmine's sister. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, this is Talina, Jasmine's mom, and I am excited to be here as well.
Yes, I'm excited to have you guys. We're talking about something really good and really important, I feel. And it's been a topic of discussion amongst the three of us for a minute now. I kind of wanted to record this while I have the outside perspective. And then maybe we could come back after I actually read the book and do another discussion, see how it ages. But um, this episode is specifically going to be talking about a novel by the title of The Power of Now. It is a spiritual guidebook written by Eckhart, and excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that right, but Eckhart Tolle or Tolle. Um, the book pretty much emphasizes the importance of living in the present moment and just letting go of your past and just future worries. And it seems like it really focuses on releasing fear also, which has kind of been a theme of the past couple episodes here on the podcast. So I figured this was a great addition. Um, it was published in 1997, so that was before my time, technically. But yeah, it says it has inspired many readers to, seek out more mindful and peaceful forms of existence. So I kind of just wanted to ask you guys what led you guys to reading the book, and either one of you can go first. I'm not sure who read it first. I think it was Mom.
Actually,
Oh, look, if I could if I could have a sound effect for that, that would have been perfect. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
oh, but no. So the way I got introduced to the book was I have a very good friend in California who started a book club online. Um, Sharing his favorite books, and it was actually pretty interesting going through it. He had like a long list of books that he went and read, and I would kind of skim through them. But when I saw the title Power of Now, it grabbed my attention right away because for a long time I had actually been hearing about people practicing being present and conscious, but never understood really how what's the word, how fulfilling it could be or how helpful, beneficial it could be in their lives. So I figured this book probably breaks it down very well, and that's what led me to choosing that book and actually reading it.
That's super cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's super cool. Mom.
Yeah.
So you ended up telling Mom about it after, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I started reading into it, and the book, it was so deep that it I was actually getting frustrated reading it because I didn't understand how this person could think that way, or how enlightenment could actually be possible, based off the words that he would say. He made it seem like it was just so easy to enter into that state. So I just, it blew my mind. So I brought it to mom, and we started sharing some of the quotes and practices he shared in the book. Just having that older viewpoint helped reaffirm what I was reading and made me believe that it was real, what he was saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as for me, Tashi brought the book, like she stated, to my attention, and it was perfect timing because I was taking my journey as becoming a yoga instructor, and some
Mm-hmm.
of the philosophies of yoga applied to some of the information in the book, and of course to the spoken word of God. So that's why it was great timing for Tasha and I to have a discussion. So it was more just reminding her of things that she had learned in the past. That's how the discussion started.
And also, might I point out, when I chose a book, I was going through a tough time. I was living on my own, going through a breakup that was pretty bad. So I knew I had dealt with obsessive thinking of the past, which led to depression and things like that. So I wanted to practice something new because I knew the things that I had been doing in the past just wasn't working. And the book really did change my mindset. I'm so glad that I ended up reading it at the time that I did.
Yeah. And I want to give kudos to both of you. I'm gonna play my cheering um, sound effect because because twofold. One, mom, you were talking about, going on your yoga journey and being able to witness it has been amazing. And to see your growth with that and to see how this book became a part of that journey that's why I really wanted to um bring it to the platform because it was something beautiful to me, and Tashi, you as well, like you said. And thank you. That's what the applause for you was, because you're being vulnerable, and I appreciate that. And I'm also proud of you for using a tough time as an opportunity to you know evolve and grow, and just let go of old things, as the Bible says. So
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
yeah. Okay, I'm back. Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to remind Tachi that when you brought this book to my attention, it was actually before you entered into those stages. It was almost like a preparation we were going through, not knowing what was coming. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So as it started evolving, it was just a good time to be in the knowledge of what the author was sharing. So that's all I was saying.
Yeah, it's definitely a transitioning period. And, it blows my mind how I found it. Well, I found it at that time. I just decided to pick it up at that time because I have read a lot of different books in my friends' book club, but that one was hands down my favorite. So it's just blows my mind this day how transformative it really was.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you haven't gathered already, the episode is going to be basically diving into some of the key themes and messages that I found as someone who hasn't read the book, just doing research on the book and kind of picking their brain. And they're going to talk about their perspective of the book, obviously, since they have read it. So I'll start with one of the main ideas of the book that I saw was that our us as humans, our thoughts and emotions often distract us from the present moment, which can cause stress and anxiety. And it said by learning to quiet your mind and focus on the present moment, we can find inner peace and happiness. And I know, Mom, you talked about yoga, and I know meditation and things like that, breathing and all types of techniques are very integral to that practice. So I'm asking you, now that you've read the book, I'm asking both of you, what are some ways you have incorporated this theme of being able to quiet your mind or stay present and reduce stress and anxieties placed in your life?
Okay, Tasha, you go first. Yeah, Mom, you can go first. Okay. Um, stated meditation, which is probably the number one um, way that you can, reach that stage. But also just taking a moment to quiet your mind. I know that sounds so cliche, but I use the form of journaling to help calm my mind and to write down what I'm thinking and then read it. Or if I'm not in a place to read, just think about it and ask myself why. Just like a 2-year-old would asking yourself, why am I having these thoughts? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I allowing it to take up so much of my time and space? So um, then I'm able to answer those questions and I journal it, whether it's on my phone or I like to keep an actual hard copy of a journal. So just taking time and just ask yourself why. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I allowing this to take up so much of my energy and my time when I don't want it to? So um, that's one of the techniques I use.
Awesome. Sorry, Tosh.
But yeah, to elaborate on that point, I think that I've taken I've taken a little bit of a different approach. The book mentions watching the thinker, or in other words, watching your thoughts, watching the compulsive thinking that you do, because generally, majority of the population creates their identity from their thoughts, what they think. Oh, I'm a bad person. They punish themselves for their thoughts. And the book challenged the readers to watch the thinker, or instead of creating an identity from your thoughts, you just listen to them, listen to the voice in your head. It begins to separate. You begin to realize that you are not your thoughts. Your mind is a tool when it's usually diseased, and it'll either take you back to thinking too far in the past or thinking too far in the future, causing depression or anxiety. And the book really challenges people to either watch the thinker, watch your thoughts, step back, don't judge, just watch where your thoughts take you and realize that I am not my thoughts. If, because that can be challenging for some people who aren't used to that. So he says the first step would be becoming so intensely present in anything that you're doing so that you're cutting your thoughts off in a way. Because that's mainly people's issue. They're not able to cut off the compulsive thinking, cut off what is tormenting them.
Look, cut off the phone, cut off the social media reels,
Right. Yeah, go outside, wash your hands, exercise, start to feel the life in you. You dissolve time. And instead of thinking about time and either be in the past or the future or what you have to do in a few minutes, you're intensely grateful for where you are. And that's really the first step. And that's what I try to practice the most, because you'll be surprised how difficult that actually is to remain present.
Yeah.
At all times. Very hard.
Yeah. It's funny. Oh, sorry, Mom.
No, I was just agreeing that's really good. And I was saying the book is to free yourself from your mind. Like you said, Tasha, your mind is not who you are. Exactly. It mentions letting go of your past as your identity and the future for fulfillment. And because that's the main problem. And like Ron was saying, it might sound simple, and even when I was reading the book, like I mentioned earlier, it sounds so simple that I just couldn't understand how it could be done. It seemed like you need a long list of things to do in order to get to that point, but it's just that easy. Letting go of your past for identity, and even some of the things that we've created for ourselves, like our race and our gender, letting go of all those things because we don't want to make an identity or create problems from that.
Mm-hmm. Especially the creating problems. It's so funny that, you know, you say that because my next point about this was just basically going to ask to close it out. What were any takeaways regarding this theme of focusing on the present, quieting your mind? And I put a special note talking about ego, emotions, identity specifically, because I think, like you guys already mentioned, I didn't even have to ask it. It really does have a very large impact on your ability to do that.
Yes, when you identify with something, majority of the time you're gonna try to defend that that aspect of air quote yourself, which is just an illusion. Because we're connected to something much deeper. I am not just this body and the things that I go through. I'm connected to a higher power that allows me to do all things. And ego is a big hindrance of that. You, again, once you identify with something, oh, I'm a Black female, that automatically comes with things, right? Like, I struggle, I work 10 times harder and get half as much. Just those types of thoughts you begin to take on, and you really believe that that makes up your being and your purpose in the world.
Yeah, like dictates your, like you said, the way you show up in the world. Like,
right, how far you can go. I'm basing that off of what I've identified myself as being.
Hold on. Sorry. Now.
I would add to what Tasha's saying as a mature woman, that being a mother and a wife, that comes with certain egotistical traits that we latch onto, and we believe that's who we are when it is not who we are. And I got to see that more clearly as I dove into the book and understood that, my youngest child is graduated from college and moved on. So now what? Before you were saying you were working to help provide for the family and to get us the necessities that we need. Okay, now what? So I was holding on to that identity of who I was as a mother and a wife, and a breadwinner, and doing this, and began to realize that as I separate myself from that, it brought me more joy because I was so attached to my ego or my identity. I began to make excuses, like if I didn't have anything to do and people asked me what was I doing, I felt like I had to give them a list of things. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I had to ask myself, why do you feel you have to do that? It's okay to be complete in what you are not doing, not necessarily what you are doing. So I'm very excited about this stage of life that I'm entering into. I don't like to use the journey. Everybody's using that on my journey. It's just the path that I'm on, and I'm able to stay present at times, and the times when I'm unable to stay present, I remind myself, "You're not being present," and then I become present again. So that is a practice that you have to continue to do to remind yourself to stay present and not attach yourself to what the world wants you to be, but what's inside of you, your inner being, what guides and leads on this path for your life. And I encourage you guys always to um, know what it is that you want to follow the path God wants you, what God has for you to do for your life, because that's what everyone else is doing. So, yeah. Yes. And a lot of times the rules or norms that people put on an identity, like mom saying with being a mom, or even like for somebody in their 30s, their early 30s, they'll, what are you doing? Are you doing this? Are you? It comes from a very unconscious place that they're creating these rules, and that's what's causing people to follow the leader, become burnt out, and just follow that unconscious trend. When the Lord, when you're present, you might be hearing from the Lord or from being, hey, it's time to rest. It's time to just relax. In like the book had mentioned, that can be for a day, 2 days, 3 weeks, a year, 2 years, where you're not doing anything. You're just being, which is perfectly fine. But the world makes it seem like that's wrong, or others, they put these rules and guidelines on life, depending on what phase you're in or what ego you have identified with yourself. That comes with a whole set of rules that might not even apply. And I think one of the things that the book had mentioned that I had to realize was when people were fighting against those cycles, because it can be hard sometimes to sit and just be, and just enjoy where God has brought you, what God has brought you through. And when people start to fight that, that's when they start getting sick. Yeah. They start, and God forces them to sit down and relax. Eventually, they'll get, sickness or what have you. And so, yeah. Good stuff. Yeah.
It is. All right. So, kind of segueing into another important message that I got from the book is that our, like, kind of like you were saying, our true identity is not defined by our thoughts, our beliefs, our external circumstances. Says we're all connected to a universal consciousness, which is what Tasha was just mentioning a few moments ago, and that it transcends individual experiences. Like, we're all connected, and by recognizing this connection, we can let go of our ego-driven desires and find a greater sense of purpose and meaning in life, which is, again, exactly what we were just kind of talking about. So I go into asking, like, how do you feel you had to kind of sit with that fact when you were reading it and that came up? Like, what are some things that may have came up for you where you recognize that, okay, that's something, that's a part of my existence that is, ego driven. So how did you deal with that?
Oh, that's a good one. Because the book goes into great detail about the ego. And I've heard about, if you take in psychology, you've heard about the ego, but they don't go into really explaining how much that creates an identity for people and how that actually drives fear. Um, and for a long time, like mom, she would check in with me, like, are you afraid of something? Like, is that what's holding you back? And I was like, no, no, I'm not afraid. I'm just blah, blah, X, Y, Z. And after reading the book, I realized I was very afraid. And it just talks about the forms that fear comes in, like worry, anxiety, nervousness, things that I was suffering from, but just didn't associate with fear. And it was saying the first step you take with that is by recognizing that when you're here and now, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're generally afraid because you're thinking too far ahead, and you're wanting to be somewhere where you're not currently. And it talks about how the mind is always trying to deny the now and escape from it, because you're thinking you're suffering from your thoughts, which goes back to the first point. If you cut your thoughts off, you're free from that fear, which is a simple but very deep concept. That's one thing I had to do for myself. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of being hurt. But that's all hurting the ego, who I've identified myself with. I'm this strong, beautiful Black woman, and so I should have XYZ going. As soon as that doesn't happen, my ego's threatened. Now I'm feeling insecure, I'm nervous, I have to live up to some image. Kind of like what mom was saying about being a mom. So I think that's just one thing that I had to realize. No, and that's good. That's that word fear keeps us from moving forward in a lot of aspects of our life. We don't realize how much attention we give to it. And I remember in the book, something that really resonated with me is how the author spoke about being present. And that was challenging for me. Well, how do you do that? How do you stay present? And he said, at this moment, you are present. You cannot be in the past and in the present at the same time. And you can't be in the present and in the future at the same time. Because once you're in the future, it becomes the present. It would sound so simple, but I had to keep listening to it to get it down on the inside, and then help take away the anxiety, worry about the past or what you didn't do or what you forgot to do. And it's like, you can't go back to that moment. So just stay present with where you are and move forward. And I couldn't worry about what was going to happen next week, next year. I could plan for it, but I shouldn't worry about it, because that brings on, anxiety, pressure from living in the past and in the future. And it causes us to just stand still and not move forward. And we're not about moving backwards. Everything good for us is in front of us. Our experiences from the past just is a building block to help us fulfill our purpose and that's excellent. Fulfill our purpose. We have to experience some things that are uncomfortable, but we don't have to let them become a part of who we are. So that was good, and I can go on and on about the ego, but
that's good, because the next question, you'll probably be able to dive into that more. So give me a second. Hey guys, I hope you really enjoyed this first part of the Power of Now novel discussion. The second half of this discussion will be posted on Tuesday, the 21st of March. I wanted to break these 2 episodes up just because it was a lot of information, and I wanted to be able to make sure that my listeners could have the best experience while listening to the episode. So just be on the lookout for part 2 coming next week on Tuesday, our normal live date. And I look forward to you guys listening to the rest of this episode. And I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. I just want to express my gratitude for you taking time out of your day to share this space with me. I hope this episode was meaningful and you leave feeling enriched. I appreciate you for being a part of this community of listeners and I hope you gain some fulfillment out of your day. Please do not forget to go follow us here and on all social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at the platform LTAI podcast and Twitter at the platform LTAI. Also, share any episodes that you've enjoyed with loved ones. I appreciate any help getting this community to grow. Sending positivity your way, this is your host, Jasmine, signing off. Stay safe, stay well, and farewell. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so happy you are here. I'm not going to talk too much. I just wanted to greet you with my voice and thank you for continuing to listen to the platform. Let's talk about it. This is part 2 of the Power of Now discussion that I had with my mother and my sister. So I'm going to stop talking and let you guys go ahead and get right back into it.